I wanted to look at Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's terrible looking. That's fine. We can edit it later.
Tom Brady's hair is not terrible looking.
It looks just like yours. It looks
That's
terrible.
what I mean. It's awesome.
terrible. It's terrible. This week on Fantasy Football Reporters, we got the Week 6 review. We got the Week 6 Stat Challenge winner. We have the Week 7 Stat Challenge. We have injury updates, and we have our predictions. And, of course, we have our Bonehead Play of the Week. I'm going to pass it over to Sean to talk about the Week 6 contest winner.
All right, last week we had the Chris Johnson rookie card. And Mitch Kirkland is the winner again. His guess was only a couple of yards off, and he was only 2 carries off. So he wins the Chris Johnson rookie card. So I'd like to throw it over to Frank to talk about next week's contest.
Week 7 Stat Challenge. First off, we have Gerard Mayo, his rookie card. His stat line is going to be sacks, interceptions, and solo tackles. For the tiebreaker, we're going to be looking at how many yards that the New England defense gives up this week to San Diego. So good luck. Make sure you enter at fantasyfootballreporters.com. Now, moving on, we're going to talk about the Bonehead Play of the Week. And this week it belongs to Aaron Rodgers. Well, actually it doesn't belong to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a part of it. It actually belongs to the Miami defense. I don't know what was going on here. We will show the play. It was 4th and goal with 16 seconds left in the game, and Miami was actually winning by 7 points. And they went on to win, but that's beside the point. Aaron Rodgers comes up to the line, as shown here, and he's in the shotgun, and he just takes a look around and notices that the Miami defense are all just kind of standing there lethargically looking around, pointing at each other. Basically taps his center on the butt and says, "Give me the ball. I'm just going to walk into the end zone and tie the game up just for fun." And live in studio now, we have Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing today, Aaron?
Yep.
Why don't you give me a little bit of a breakdown of what did you see?
Well, I gotta tell you, man, it looked like they were in the dime / goal line / prevent defense. And I don't know. I pretty much made the best of the situation.
I mean, that's kind of an odd thing because you were on like the 2-yard line.
Yeah. You know, they were looking away. You know, maybe they saw a naked cheerleader or a nipple slip in the front row. You know, wardrobe malfunction got their attention, and I said, "Don't mind if I do." Right?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. It must have been some sort of wardrobe malfunction. I mean, was that like
Probably.
the easiest touchdown of your career, do you think?
Of my career, probably, yeah. I mean, I like to do it on Miami, too, because they're terrible.
Yeah, but they did beat you, didn't they?
I'm not sure. Was that a... No, we won. We did. Thanks, though.
All right, Aaron.
All right.
Well, we hope to see you in the future on our Bonehead Play of the Week. And great job noticing that Miami were doing backflips and pirouettes out there and not paying attention. Good job for you, and congratulations on that. Right? Moving forward, we're going to thanks again to Aaron Rodgers and Miami's defense for doing God only knows what. I'm going to pass it over to Sean to talk a little bit about the week in review.
All right, week 6 in review. We're going to start with the QBs. Kevin Kolb throws for 326 and 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, and that's after one of his best wide receivers got knocked out in the second quarter. So Tony Romo throws for only 220, but he does get the 3 touchdowns, has 2 picks, and he had 31 rushing yards in the loss to the Vikings. Matt Schaub throws for 305, 2 touchdowns, including a game winner to Andre Johnson with the time winding down in the 4th. Aaron Rodgers, who we just had on here, 313, only 1 touchdown, only 1 interception. And before we move on, Frank, do you have any suggestions for the Kolb and Vic owners? As Andy Reid said, it looks like Kolb will start next week, but we can't rule Vic out at this point.
I think it's going to be Mike Vick moving forward. He has no turnovers this year. I know Kolb has 3 or 4, I believe. I know he's thrown a couple of picks, but Vick's looked excellent, and he's just he adds a different dimension when he's in the game with his legs.
Running backs, moving on. Ryan Torian, 100 yards exactly, 2 touchdowns. Don't get too excited. The Colts are terrible against the run, 27th in the league. Chris Ivory out of nowhere runs for 158, only 15 carries too. Adds a 17-yard reception to his day. Arian Foster runs under the 100-yard mark, but he does get the 2 touchdowns. He had 6 receptions for 26 yards. Steven Jackson goes for 109. Took him 29 carries to do it, though. And he does find the end zone. Going back to Chris Ivory, Frank, what does this mean for the future, for his future in New Orleans?
They have so many running backs, it's not even funny. I know Sean's on the roster as the 7th running back.
The 7th emergency running back.
Emergency. He gets the call once in a while. If they just signed Julius Jones, I don't see him being much more than somebody on the depth chart, probably 3rd, like he is now currently.
Will it be a three-headed monster situation if when everyone's healthy?
I don't think so. It's going to be Reggie Bush and Pierre Thomas moving forward, absolutely.
All right. Moving on to wide receivers, Jeremy Maclin, in the absence of Jackson, goes off with 159 and 2 touchdowns on only 7 catches. Dwayne Bowe, look who decided to show up, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. Calvin Johnson was upgraded to active before the game, and he made the best of the situation. 146 yards and a touchdown. Andre Johnson had the big day owners were waiting for since the Washington game, 8 receptions, 138 yards, and the score. Tight ends, Ben Watson actually leads the way this week, 6 receptions, 88 yards, and a score. Tony Gonzalez has 3 receptions, but 2 of them go for touchdowns. And 3 to 5, Todd Heap, Vernon Davis, Heath Miller, all grabbing a touchdown. Defense not quite like it was last week with all the blocks and insane points, touchdowns. Actually, no defensive touchdowns this week. Pittsburgh leads the way with 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. St. Louis and Seattle following that with 7 and 6 sacks respectively. And Seattle did have a safety, and the Rams did pick up an interception. Kickers, not too many field goals this week actually, but Dan Carpenter from Miami kicked 3, including an overtime game winner against the Green Bay Packers. And Jason Hansen kicked 2 50-yarders, and that gives him 45, 50, or over yard field goals, and that's an NFL record. So we're going to move on to Frank now with the Week 6 busts.
We got a lot of busts this week. I know there was a lot of injuries too. We're not going to really talk too much on that, but people that actually played the game. First off, Javid Best, as we predicted, had a pretty tough day. He had 12 carries for 16 yards. He did add 6 catches for 31, but overall a pretty lackluster day. Sean, how is it possible to get 16 yards on 12 carries?
It's pretty bad. That means that you're going in reverse for a lot of carries. Because you know we had some 3 or 4 yard runs, but that means a lot of negative rushes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if you just fall forward,
Yeah.
you should be getting more than 1 yard a carry, I would think. So,
What was his receptions?
he had 6 for 31, so
That's
respectable for a running back, absolutely. But no touches, and again, 12 carries for 16
He's a
yards.
better receiving back.
Absolutely. And my man Miles Austin had a real tough day. 2 catches, only 12 yards. Sean Green, also known as Struggle Fest 2010, had 9 rushes, 43 yards, no receptions. Hakeem Nicks had his first really bad day of the year. I know we talked about him last week.
Yeah.
He had 3 catches for 8 yards. Again, how do you get 8 yards on 3 receptions?
Real tough.
I don't even know how that's possible.
Negative. There had to be some negative.
Yeah, he was losing yards apparently. Another lackluster day is Michael Turner, only 45 yards rushing. Donald Driver was held in check. 3 catches, 31 yards, as Greg Jennings went off, as we already talked about. That was the first, pretty bad game for Donald Driver this year, who's been playing really good. Jeremy Shockey, 2 catches for 21 yards, pretty terrible. Malcolm Floyd had a bad day, only 2 catches for 15 yards. I know that's Sean's buddy there, and his preseason sleeper pick, and he's been great and lived up to that. A few other names, Brett Favre only had 11 fantasy points, and Jason Campbell only had 6 points. Tim Tebow actually had more points in less than 10 snaps. He had 9 points. Moving to Tebow, is Tebow an actual viable fantasy
Don't even
player?
say it. He's not a starter. I mean, if you're in a league where you can start 2 quarterbacks, maybe you think about it if you're hurting. I'm talking injuries all over the place, but no, not in a regular league.
Absolutely not. I totally agree. Couldn't agree with him more. We're going to pass it back to Sean to talk a little bit about the injuries.
Yeah, tough injuries this week. Tough injuries as it relates to concussions, all over the place yesterday. So first, I'm going to start the injuries with all the players to watch this week due to concussions. Chris Cooley, he's going to see a specialist. This is his 3rd concussion in his lifetime. Deshaun Jackson, this one may be the worst of all of them. It sounds really severe. They reported he had memory loss. He doesn't remember the hit. And obviously, Deshaun Jackson is not likely to start next week. Josh Cribbs and Mohamed Massaquoi both have concussions. They both came from James Harrison. You want to watch them throughout the week. 2 New York Giants special teamers and defenders went out with concussions. And Duntai Robinson, who leveled Deshaun Jackson, also has a concussion, so 2 on the same play there. Other notable injuries, we have Vernon Davis tweaked his knee in the win over Oakland. He's going to have MRIs this week. Watch for those results. We have Matt Stafford, who is looking to return after the bye, after the Lions bye this coming week. Donald Driver was battling a thigh injury throughout the whole game. He played through it. He did play the whole game, but he was coming in and out of the game very frequently. And Mike Vick, it doesn't look like, well, he didn't see any action in his Sunday game, and it looks like he's going to return after the Eagles bye in Week 8. He's going to return Week 9. And right now I'm going to pass it over to Frank for the predictions on the Beast and Busts for Week 7.
Thanks, Sean. Ray Rice versus Buffalo is a great matchup. Buffalo's given up close to 200 rushing yards a game.
That's not good.
Jay Cutler and Johnny Knox. I mean, Johnny Knox had a real good game this week. 5 catches, 120 yards. Most points he's had all year in fantasy. I think combined any 3 of his games, and he doesn't have that many points. And he's going up against Washington this week, who's actually giving up the 2nd most passing yards per game in the NFL. Are you surprised by that?
I mean, I didn't expect too many big things from them this year, but that's pretty bad. I mean, they're 2nd to Houston, right?
Yeah, Houston's number 1.
Yeah, so, I mean, anytime you're in the conversation with Houston and it's talking about passing game, it's not a good thing.
Larry Fitzgerald against Seattle, who's 3rd worst against the pass. I know Max Hall's probably going to be starting again, but look for Fitzy to have a good week. He had a decent week 2 weeks ago. So another sleeper alert is in that same game, Matt Hasselbeck, who looked really good this weekend, this past weekend, and he goes up against the Cardinals, who are giving up 27.6 points, which is 3rd worst in the NFL, and that's per game, 27.6 points per game. So look for him to have another good week this week. Steven Jackson, as we talked about earlier, took him 29 rushes to get over 100, but he looked pretty solid, and he's going up against the 2nd worst run defense in Tampa Bay. Moving on to the busts, Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams are going up against Pittsburgh, who is number 1 against the rush, only giving up about 60 yards a game. You surprised by this?
That they're giving up that few yards per game? Absolutely not. I mean, we knew that there were going to be questions on offense with Big Ben being out, but the Steelers have, 1 loss now, right?
Yeah.
And their defense just carried them through. I mean, their offense played well, but now that Big Ben's back, they still have that defense. They still have Polamalu running around there killing people. Not killing people, but running around there hitting people. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised.
Absolutely. Tom Brady, again, you have to start Tom Brady, and the next guy actually too, Tony Romo. You have to start these guys, but they have tough matchups. San Diego is number 1 against the pass in terms of passing yards per game this year. Are you surprised by that?
I'm definitely surprised by that. I mean, they lost. When did they lose Cromartie?
Last year.
Last year
to the Jets.
Yeah, and he's a great corner. And I mean, somehow they made the right adjustments, and they're number 1 in the league. Like you said, I'm very surprised.
Yeah, Tony Romo is going up against the 2nd overall pass defense in the Giants. Randy Moss is being covered this upcoming week by All-World Charles Woodson of the Green Bay Packers. So that's a tough matchup. And that's all we have for the show this week. Make sure you check out the website, www.fantasyfootballreporters.com. We have the weekly contest. Make sure you enter that. And check back daily for updates. And you stay fine as hell, Angelina Jolie.